Hello friends, it's Nancy from Astrology and Angel Mediums today with another video on Show Me How You Practice. So today I wanted to talk about a practice that I'm seeing is rising in popularity, and I think it's really great that other people are doing it and have an interest in it. So I have what you would call a Cleromancy Kit, which essentially just means a collection of different things, and reading different objects to divine, right? So I like to use what I call a bone and charm kit, because that's essentially what I'm reading is different bones, different charms, different trinkets, things I've collected over the years that, I add, I take away, I kind of add different things. Now, the reason why I do it a little bit different than other people is most people will use a reading cloth that has either like almost like a pie on it with different slices and different things like that. I don't read in that way. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I decided I wanted to make a reading box. So a few years ago, I, went to, I think it was Michael's, and they have like these magnetic storage boxes. And this one was just so whatever. And I decided to buy some fun paper. I wanted it to look antique, like old postcards and letters. And so I'm going to take everything out just so I can like move this around and not drop anything. But I covered the entire box, and I kind of fix it as needed. As again, this is kind of like needing some stuff. It's fading. I wanted old maps, things like that, just to where it just looked old. And again, it's a book, right? It's for readings. So I just kind of added my own kind of stamp to it, I think, to kind of make it feel more personalized for me. So I covered every single surface in here except for the outside, because it looks like a book, and on certain parts of the back and the front, just because I thought it was pretty with that little gold and that coral color right there. So this is what I throw my kit in. Now, usually I kind of will have it on the table with my client or whatever, and I keep all of my kit inside of a Crown Royal bag just because it's durable. It hasn't had any holes because I do have bones in here and things of that nature. And then I usually keep this porcupine quill to kind of separate and point things or whatever. So I usually keep it separate outside of like my actual bag of stuff. So I'm going to dump everything out. I have a lot of different things in my kit just because that's what I like. I try to cleanse these before I actually use them for a client. Usually I'll have some, Palo Santo, and I will just kind of run things through the smoke, and then I'll also just have everything loose, have the smoke going, and then I'll just close the box and let that be what it needs to be. So that's kind of how I cleanse these guys. I also like to add different oils to them. So I like to work with Santa Muerte. So I have a Santa Muerte oil. I have a Hecate oil as well. Sometimes I'll put those on my hands and kind of just rub them all over the bones and all of the different pieces. So everything that I have here, there are going to be some animal parts. So just trigger warning, I guess. I try to make sure that everything I get is ethically sourced. You can find different vendors and such on Etsy. There's even been bones that I have found over the years. I just try to kind of connect to the spirit of the animal and just thank it for its service for me, and just ask if I can add it to my kit. So I was recently able to find a feral cat, like skeleton. And so I was able to get it. I haven't cleansed it or anything yet, and I haven't like actually done anything with the actual like bones yet, as I wanted to kind of just bring it here and just ensure everything's fine energy wise before I kind of move forward in that process. So I will be adding some sort of cat bones into my practice. So just like that, I add different things. Sometimes I'll find particular charms or pieces that just like speak to me that maybe wouldn't have been traditionally included. This is just different things that I have found. I have several pieces that are similar. So I don't even know how many pieces I actually have in here. I have added charms from like Hobby Lobby or from like different trips or different things that I've just kind of kept over the years that maybe made sense to me. So like these really pretty keys, things like this where it just made sense for me to add it to my kit, or something like an arrowhead. And then I kind of connect to what I feel the energy of that item may be. Now, for the actual bones that I have, I'm understanding the animal that they came from, trying to connect to that energy. That's kind of what I utilize for the readings as I'm doing the readings, as well as little kind of whimsical things. This was a gift from somebody, and I just thought it was cute. I was like, this is very like, we can take it one of two ways, whether it's like a rubber ducky for your bath. So maybe you need to clean some stuff up, or even just the joyful fun of just kind of taking some time out to reconnect to that childlike energy. I think it's very fun to do a kit like this. Now, for anyone who's starting off, yeah, you can go and purchase one that's already been pre-made. Again, I think that there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's fun to kind of over time co-create and find what speaks to you, what you want to add in there. There's been times where I'm like, oh, I'm going to add like a black-eyed pea, or I want to add a marble, or I want to add in some chakra charms or something like that, or something that makes sense to me because it speaks to me in a certain way. And there's been things that I remove from my kit that I'm like, okay, that's not really working for me any longer, or that's not an energy that I want to continuously call on in my readings. So how do I do a reading with this? I'm trying to get everything back in the box because sometimes the bones break. This is like a piece of a shark tooth. I still leave it in there because it's been a part of my kit for years. So I think it's important that it stays in there. So if you don't want to use a box, then you don't have to follow this. This is just, again, my intuition, how it works for me. I feel like the left side of the box is more intuitive. The right side is more logical, analytical. I kind of look at it as like a grid, like your head, your heart, your feet, kind of like this is what's grounding you. This is what you care about. This is what you're thinking about, kind of thing, like a grid, right? So depending on what lands where, that will kind of tell me like what is going on with the person, or what's kind of going on with their energy, so to speak. So I usually try to focus my energy on, kind of asking like, can I use these crystals and things? Can I use this kit to kind of bring clarity to my guests or whatever, or my client or whoever, or even myself, even though I don't really use this for my own personal readings, which is funny because I love doing it for other people. And then I just throw. I don't try to throw it in one. I just try to kind of go above and just drop. I don't try to throw it forward. I just try to like a neutral drop. And I don't know if you can kind of see how I did that, where it's just kind of a neutral drop. So everything's kind of landed where it wants to land. I would typically start with, if the bracelet does come out, that's usually telling you like this is what you need to focus on the most. So I'm assuming that this is a throw for myself, even though, again, I don't ever really use this for my own readings, but I would just kind of go around starting with this area and kind of go from there to kind of build the reading. It can give you so much information, so much clarity, so much guidance to kind of keep in mind when it comes to what your client is going through or whatever. And it does take practice. I mean, there's times where I'm like, a lot of the bones look similar. So sometimes I'm like, I think it's this bone or whatever, but I just kind of follow through on what feels right for me in that moment as I'm talking to the client, as I'm doing the reading. I just focus that energy on what I feel is coming through to me, because to me, all of our practices and how we practice is really about learning to trust your intuition, connecting a little bit more to that energy, giving yourself permission to say, maybe this isn't exactly how anybody else would interpret this, that this is how I'm interpreting this at this time. So I think that's another really important thing when it comes to our personal practices, is giving ourselves that grace to say, hey, this may not be the traditional way that this goes, but this is something that speaks to me right now, and this is how I feel like it needs to be interpreted. Because a lot of this is subjective. You know, it is very much about what you're picking up on, what makes sense to you, how things look for you. Because to me, it's like, I would definitely say, yeah, there's a lot kind of going on with stability. There's a lot going on that's like more rational, not really listening to the intuitive side, or maybe you're not wanting to connect too much to the intuitive side. So there is a little bit of this sense of like not feeling abundant. There's a sense of not feeling like you can really voice what you need to say. Things are not really shifting. You feel like you don't fit in because you have this puzzle piece here. There's a lack of commitment to your imagination. And so that is also kind of making you struggle in other areas because you feel like things are moving too slow. You feel like you were trusting spirit, but things haven't really worked out the way that you had anticipated. Like, you understand that you're being protected from a situation, even if it is something that right now feels very confusing. So just kind of connect to that energy. Don't be so timid. Try to find your inner peace. Connect a little bit more to your intuition. Don't overthink it. You need to branch out in intuitive ways, as well as maybe there's something that you're forgetting when it comes to the potential for you to kind of break free from certain things and to kind of change what is being illuminated for you at this current time. Maybe it's time to kind of be a little bit more balanced in the work that you're doing, as well as finding something that feels a little bit more independent, a little bit more open for you in different ways. So that's kind of how I would read all of this, because that's what I'm seeing with all of these different things. And I feel like it's almost like maybe you're forgetting to kind of pin yourself back into what is intuitively good for you. And see, it's not a super like, oh, this is oddly specific and da 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 da. Again, all readings are going to be very subjective. I know some people like to give predictive, readings or whatever, but I feel like sometimes the present is the most confusing at times, because we're constantly feeling like we're at a crossroads, or we're trying to kind of see like, if I continue this way, where is that going to take me? Where is that going to lead me? And I think having something like this in your arsenal, especially if you're someone that like maybe doesn't feel very cohesive with cards, or maybe struggles a little bit with cards, or maybe you don't really trust a lot of your intuition, I think that this is a nice little way to kind of remove some of that, like, it has to be this way. Now, are there people that, have written books onto how you're supposed to read certain things, how they would interpret certain aspects? Yes, of course. And I'm going to show you 2 books, because I do have 2 books. All right, sorry, I forgot to bring these out earlier, so I had to stop and go grab them. But the very first one is Bones, Shells, and Curios by Michelle Jackson. I bought her kit it was like a pre-made kit and the book. And from that, I've added my own stuff to it, but she kind of has her own theories as to like how to read. And I've used her stuff. It helps, but I like, again, to do my own thing because I don't like to follow the rules too much. And again, just like with other things, I always tell people, I'm like, take what you need, leave what you don't. This is fantastic. It really does help you start off, especially if you're feeling uncomfortable with something like this, where maybe it feels a little bit overwhelming, like, oh, I don't know, am I supposed to just go buy a bunch of different things? Throwing the Bones by Atlanta Moonfire. This is also a really great book that has a lot of really great information and other things that you can kind of add into your kit. Like, I've had a Black Widow spider. I don't have one anymore. But I mean, you can just kind of add in your own thing, and you can kind of look at other opportunities to be like, oh, I could do that, or I could, do this, or, whatever. And there's other aspects here that kind of tell you, like, oh, you can add in other personal effects in here, which I think is great, especially if you are someone that, like, maybe doesn't really know exactly how you want to start or how you want things to be. So again, I'm like, I have a porcupine quill to kind of point the bones during a reading. That's how I use the quill. But some people use it in their kit. I kept getting stabbed, so I was like, let me not do that anymore. So you can have a lot of different, things to kind of personalize your kit. So if you've been seeing like a bunch of people doing like bone throwing, which I know can be very daunting, I think, to some people, where they're just like, I just want bones, and just do that in my own way, you could do just an all bone kit. I used to separate everything. I'm at the point now where I'm like, it's good. It is what it is for me. I enjoy it being all together and kind of giving me a little bit of information on everything. But here you can see she just uses a cloth, and that's how she does her reading, is that she just kind of has everything come out and she can kind of talk about it as far as like how she reads it. And again, find things that are good for you. I think she also does like pre-made kits. I have bought a couple of specific bones from her kits as well, just because, again, I want to make sure that what I'm getting is ethically sourced, that I'm not doing anything or harming any living life at this current moment, for the sake of my own kind of like getting things. So let me know what you guys think of Cleromancy, if you've heard of it, if it's something that you're curious about. I don't really do too many of these readings online here. It is something that I offer in person because it is just like fun. It's different. So have a good one. Take care. And as always, make good choices. Bye.